All pollinators are welcome in my garden, except for hornworms. They can die by fire. So this year I set out about trying to build my own bumblebee house. Hive, I don't really know what they're called, but I looked up some plans on it and I decided I was going to try to build me one to try to help some of the pollinators that are around in my garden. So this is the first time I've ever built any kind of beehive from scratch. Why bumblebees, you ask? Why don't I go the traditional route and try to build a honeybee hive? Well, this starts back in the spring. Early in the spring, there was something I really noticed a lot about my garden when I would come out here, and that was there was an epic lack of honeybees. I didn't see them anywhere. It's very weird. Usually they're out kind of full force early in the year. A lot of dandelions, things like that they're after are out. That's the time of year they start stirring. They're trying to get all the nectar they can to start getting that supply up, and I didn't see them anywhere in my yard. Got me thinking, what other pollinators are really good that we need to keep around our garden, and what can we do to help them? And bumblebees, because I was noticing them, they were out here all over the place doing tons of work. I thought, that's the perfect one. I got to figure out a way to work with them. I even put out all these little watering dishes for them that you see up there. There's this little bottom of clay pots hanging up by strings, and I would put some sugar water in there, hoping to attract them and feed them, you know, so they would stick around, because I really wanted to have honeybees out here to pollinate all my stuff. But as I kept looking and they kept not showing up, there was one thing I did notice, and that was that we had a large bumblebee population out here. The bumblebees were seemingly taking over some of the work that the honeybees were not getting to or were slow at getting to. So in my efforts to help the bumblebees, because if the bees are having issues, the bumblebees are there to help us out, I thought I'm going to try to build a house and see if I can't get these guys to nest into it. So I did a lot of reading and research on how you would get a bumblebee hive set up and get them to go into it. And all I could find was that kind of box. You build it, it's got like a little mud room because they like to have a place to come in, kind of wash off their feet, and then they go into the hive part, which is like a second compartment inside the big box. And then there you could put some nesting materials, kind of like some old fabric out of like a couch or something like that. They got to have a little bit of space in the middle to build their hive, but they like to have that as protective to keep them warm. So I went about building this, and I just kind of did it by scratch offhand of things pictures I seen on the internet and a couple videos I watched. Now I know that bumblebees are not the most romantic bee to keep. They don't give us honey. You know, we can't brag to everybody about how we're beekeepers, because when it comes to bumblebees, we don't really do anything. If you get them in this little box I made, it's by luck, really. There's no like scientific proven fact that they're attracted to these kind of boxes or anything. But they kind of live in the environments where they make their hives inside of old, like, you know, mole holes and stuff like that. So if you put this low on the ground and you kind of make it look kind of like that sort of environment, which would be why you put like some kind of cotton in there, there's a good chance that you might be able to get them to come in there. There's a better chance, at least. Alright, so let me tell you a little bit about this hive that I built. I built this out of a 1x10 that was 6 foot long. Plank has had a pretty long run, if you guys all remember Ed, Ed and Eddie.
Watch this, Ed! I'm a two-headed monster! Ooh!
And I cut all the sides, 4 of them, into 1 foot pieces. And then I cut this, it was 7 1/4 inch from here to here when I nailed it all together. And I have 3 of those boards. And actually I used every bit of this board that I had, 6 foot board, because right here, that was all that was left after I made those cuts. So I put this on here like a landing pad for them. Now from what I read, this yellow around the hole here is supposed to attract them, so they'll fly in. This would be the entrance hole. Now, I heard a lot about the floor. They come in, they clean, you put some cardboard in there, and they'll wipe their feet or whatever on it. So I thought, if I'm going to have to clean that so it doesn't get too nasty or anything, I came up with this idea of putting a hinge on the bottom and only doing the mudroom part. So if you look at this, it'll actually hinge open. That cardboard I'll put right here, and I'll be able to clean that sucker out real easy because I can open it, pull it out, slap some new pieces of cardboard in there. I just put a little eyelatch hook on there. It's not the best hook. I may end up changing that, just something a little different. But I also put a top on it with a hook. And then when you open it, because that's also on hinges, so I can check in on it, you got your two compartments. This is the mudroom, where the floor opens up. Boop. And then this is the main compartment where we'll put our cotton, kind of looped it around so that they can fly in through the holes in the front. Now I offset these holes in the front so they can kind of fly in and go over and out. It gives them a little more defense from incoming pests that way. So to make sure it didn't get too hot in here, I drilled a couple holes in the side, and I used some wire mesh that I had. I glued it in place there so that it was predator proof, so nothing could really get in there to get to them while they're in their nest. And that would leave them only with the one spot to defend, which would be the very front. So I ended up painting it white because I wanted it to be a little bit waterproof, and I may actually get some kind of tin or something to put over the roof just to make it a little more waterproof, a little more sturdy, and stand up to some more weather. So other things that we have done for pollinators, and well, because my wife told me to also, she wanted a cutting garden. So we planted a lot of flowers out here, and the flowers have been very helpful in getting a lot of things attracted to our garden area to help with pollination. So we have some Shasta daisies, we have coneflower, we have lilies, irises, just tons of different variety of flowers out here. There's even some lavender, and then of course different herbs and stuff. So planting all that stuff will help bring all that here to keep in your yard and keep feeding whatever you decide to pollinate with, whether it be the honeybees that you want to keep, or whether you're going to go a non-traditional route and try to do what I'm doing and perhaps capturing some of the less romantic pollinators and trying to help them along and, you know, cultivate them on your homestead. All right, that's all I got for you today. I'm gonna put this guy where I think is a good spot for it. Kind of low to the ground, kind of in the back darker corner here. Hopefully it's an attractive area for the bumblebees, and we shall see what happens. Catch you guys in the next one. On a side note, if you guys are interested in how I went about building that bumblebee house, let me know down in the comments below, and I will put together a little how-to video of how I went ahead and built that beehive.